If you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. Maya Angelou. Welcome back to the Neuroscience Meets Social and Emotional Learning Podcast, where we bridge the gap between theory and practice with strategies, tools, and ideas we can all use immediately. I'm Andrea Samadi, and launched this podcast to share how important an understanding of our brain is for our everyday life and results. It's probably taken me about 3.5 years of hosting this podcast, looking back now, to see how much these weekly interviews have expanded my own self-awareness by picking the brains of some of the most brilliant minds on the planet in high performance, connecting their strategies to the most current brain research, and then sharing what I'm learning with you here on the podcast. If our results really are tied back to our level of awareness, then it makes sense to me that we keep sharing the success secrets used by those who've risen to the top, with the goal that we can all do the same and take our results to those higher levels of achievement. For today's episode number 260, we'll be speaking with a serial entrepreneur from Munich, Germany, Dr. Hasan Akram, who's been obsessed with high performance and biohacking for years. Since 2005, he's created disruptive companies in multiple industries: automotive with his company Matrickz, brain and performance with his company Brainvincible, and real estate, to name a few, that are changing the way we live, think, and work. Dr. Hasan reached out to me as he'd been enjoying our podcast and wanted to share his perspective and journey that he thought would bring value to our audience, and I agreed. I watched a few of his other interviews, one that he did a year ago with Craig Ballantyne, who's a well-known business coach and entrepreneur from my hometown, Toronto, Canada. And this interview was called The Millionaire Monk's Abundance Formula, and it stuck out to me, so I listened to it. It was here I learned that Dr. Hasan and I have a lot of our influencers in common that he mentioned opened up his mind to the many possibilities that exist when you fully optimize the power of your brain and mind. The program he created, Brainvincible, helps those in schools, sports, and the workplace to improve their communication and creativity skills, helps athletes to optimize their skills and abilities to achieve precision and regeneration, as well as helping students to improve their study habits to achieve higher grades. I had to look at who Dr. Hasan studied and what motivated him to create a course like this. And lo and behold, Dr. Hasan from Munich, Germany, took the same course that I took many years ago, where we both learned how to use the power of visualization to create what we wanted in our life and use our imagination to solve problems. Dr. Hasan learned about the Silva method when he was 16, and I came across this method while working in the seminar industry and used it in many different ways over the years. Dr. Hasan used this method to skyrocket his grades and self-confidence, and years later, he began searching for ways to further enhance his brain's capacities. I can't wait to ask Dr. Hasan about his unique perspective after he's dedicated years of study to biohacking to improve performance with some of the most unique brain training strategies that I've ever come across. Let's meet Dr. Hasan Akram, who's been called Germany's most disciplined man, and learn from his experience to see how we can further improve our own brain's capacity and skyrocket our results to those new heights. Welcome, Dr. Hasan. It's incredible to see you again. Now, this isn't our first meeting, it's our second, but it's incredible to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Andrea, thank you so much. Love being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to get right into the questions, Dr. Hasan, because I really, when I came across you and your work, I felt like we were kindred souls, I felt a serious connection to you. And even though this is just our second time meeting and you're all the way in a different country, you're in Germany right now, right?
I'm in Germany.
Awesome. So, it really makes the world a small place when you can feel this much of a connection for someone all the way on the other side of the world. And it happened when I listened to your interview with Craig Ballantyne, and you mentioned Craig's from my hometown, Toronto. And I just felt that everything you were saying was like me. You were talking about the Silva program and Dave Asprey's biohacking. And even though I don't run 4 companies, I thought, who is this guy? I want to learn more about him. So I've got to ask, when you found our podcast, what resonated with you and our content enough that you took the time to send me a note?
Great question, Andrea. So when I saw the title that Neuroscience Meets Social and Emotional Learning, that's it. I had to look at your content. What are you talking about? So I clicked through, I looked what you're doing, and I love the content. I mean, neuroscience and bringing the social and emotional aspect is, I think, extremely important. We already know that emotional intelligence and social intelligence are far more important in terms of practicality than our classic way to measure IQ. We already know that. So I'm obsessed with neuroscience in a sense. I founded a company called Brainvincible together with my sister, who's a medical doctor. And you have the nootropic in your head.
Yeah, thank you. I just got it last night and tried it for the first time. So it tastes great. But tell me, what am I supposed to learn from it? Because it was only my first time trying it. What have you noticed or heard other people say?
So it's a nootropic. It's supposed to, boost up your brain power, let you focus, and make you more productive. So that's the thing that I work with. I work with brain is something that fascinates me. And while working with brain in the last couple of years with this company, I realized that brain, you can't just isolate brain and just work on brain. Brain performance is everything. I mean, you have to think about your heart, your liver, your muscle strength, and everything, is powering up the brain. So, I mean, we're moving toward more high performance company from a, just brain focused company. And coming back to the nootropic, that's not only powers of your brain, it's also doing a lot of good things for your health. There are amazing ingredients in it. So coming back to your question, so this is exactly what I'm obsessed with what you're doing. So that's why it resonated with me and wanted to talk to you.
Well, that's why I think we're kindred souls, because I didn't realize how obsessed I was going to be with this content until I started, and we're going to get into your legacy, but you told me that you wanted to do 100 podcasts, right? That was like a goal that you have. And it's crazy because, when you launch something or you start this idea, you don't know what you're going to learn.
Yeah, so I've actually done both the sides. I host a podcast called Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security Podcast. By the way, my first company, I'm a computer scientist. So my first company is in the artificial intelligence domain, autonomous driving, safety, security, that kind of thing, which is still running, doing very good. And then I founded a bunch of other companies. So I started this podcast, Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security, which I still host. I bring in people from different parts of the world who are expert in this field to talk about technology, autonomous vehicle. Right now, I'm working on a book. The title is A Brief History of Autonomous Vehicle. So that's coming up hopefully end of this year. And so that was like my part of the being the host. Now I realized that I want to get to know more people, talk in their program, and share my story. So this is will be another journey, being the guest in various podcasts, and I've aimed 100. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be neat to watch you as well, and to even have you back on once you've reached your 100. I'd love to know what you learned from it, because it's It's been eye-opening and better than a university degree, that's for sure.
Absolutely. You learn practical stuff that they'll never teach you in a classroom.
Exactly. Well, I was definitely thrilled that you reached out to connect and share your experiences. So if we could, I usually start with, where you began, but if we could we start with where you are now and look back, like Steve Jobs said, and connect the dots looking backwards, because here you are, you've built, these successful companies. And then I heard you say that you want to help people beyond your lifetime and, thinking about the legacy that you want to leave. So I wonder, looking back now, at what point were you clear with your purpose and the legacy that you want to leave? What is your legacy?
It's a great question. So, if you ask me what point it was clear to me, it was actually from the very early stage of my life. I kind of felt that I'm not here to just, enjoy life and, take and do nothing. I always thought that I'm here to contribute. I'm here to do something for the world and somehow something big. I had different ambitions at different life, what I'm going to do, how am I going to change the world. So entrepreneurship was really in my DNA. Although I'm not from an entrepreneur family, I think I was a bad mutation, and so it turned out to be a good one that I became an entrepreneur. So now, by legacy, what I mean is, the mission of my life is to create 100 millionaires, because I think it's a necessity for the society. It's a necessity for the society in a sense that, the small entrepreneurs, they do the highest amount of good to the society versus one big corporation taking it all. So 1 million millionaires is like one of the mission, and I want to start from my company. My company is called Matrickz, the autonomous vehicle safety and security company. And this is where I want to start. And I tell my people that this is exactly what I want to do. Out of every Matrixian, I want to create a millionaire. And this is possible. This is very doable. I've done it from a very, very humble beginning, as you have mentioned. And everybody can do this. So now it turns out, now I've been talking about 1 million. Now I'm thinking that 1 million is too less. Because of inflation and everything, the value of 1 million is not 1 million anymore. I think I should change it to 10 million. So this is my ambition throughout my life, and the process is more interesting to me. If I can hit 1 million within my lifetime, or is it going to be 100,000 or even a few hundred, I don't care. The fact that I have an ambition and I'm working toward the process is what I enjoy. And like you said, I mentioned that beyond the lifetime thing. So I think it's very easy for one person to do one great thing in their life. Everybody can do it. Much harder to do consistently good for the world. Much, much harder. What's even hardest is taking it beyond your lifetime. So taking it beyond your lifetime, what I mean is I want to create a system. That system would go even beyond my lifetime. That system would continue and create millionaires or help people. And the magnitude doesn't matter. Here is if the magnitude is in a scale of I will help 8 billion people, I wouldn't mind. But even if it is a couple of hundred people, I don't care. The idea is that it has to go beyond my lifetime so that I can create a system that continues to go beyond my lifetime. A lot of people have done it in history. Their contribution goes beyond their lifetime. That's what excites me. That's what really motivates me to do what I'm doing. And when I say beyond my lifetime, contributing toward this, it doesn't really mean that, wealth creation. Wealth creation is one thing, one very important aspect of being. What I've realized that I have prioritized financial wealth way too much than other kinds of wealth in my life, and I wanted to change my paradigm. I have changed my paradigm in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I prioritize health number one, relationship number two, and then financial wealth. So these are the three things that is number one priority in my life. And I just did a back of the envelope calculation at the rate that I'm growing my companies, my financial wealth. If I can keep myself healthy till the age of 80 and stay performing the way I'm performing today, I'll be one of the very few trillionaires of the world, because multiplication that continues. It's gonna explode at one point. It's really about being healthy, physically and mentally.
Well, what was interesting in that whole thing, because I remember when I opened up my backstory, I talk about expanding our self-awareness. Like, why doesn't everyone do what you're doing and run 2 or 3 companies, or how you've got 4 going at the same
time? I've got 7 right now.
7. Okay. Why doesn't everyone do this? It's because we're not taught this, right? It's our awareness in school is to go get the 9 to 5 and you do that and only that. And so your self-awareness changed when you went into the entrepreneurial world. And I remember back when my self-awareness changed, when I saw Bob Proctor standing there with a box of books that he wrote, and then everyone came and bought them, and they were $20 a book. And then I had this empty box, and then I had like $140 in my hand. And I thought, oh, so I can earn money based on something that I write. So then that motivated me to go write a book. And so what I'm hearing from you is that your awareness changed, and now you want to help other people change their awareness around their ability to earn money. Is that, would you say that's along the lines of it?
Sort of. So when you say my awareness changed, I have to talk a little bit about my background again. I was not good at anything when I was in school. I was not good at sports. I was good at studies, but I was never the kind of a guy who learned for exams and stuff. So I was never the top grader. I was bullied at school. So I was not practically good at anything. Then I studied. I did my PhD and everything. I loved what I did. But again, I would never win a Nobel Prize. And, if I continue doing science, probably I'll be a professor teaching, but I'll never win a Nobel Prize. I also was not designed for a 9-to-5 system. So 9-to-5 system would be a imprisonment for me. Okay. Yeah. So there was only one thing that I think that really led me to where I am today. Two things. Extreme curiosity about everything. I mean, I wanted to literally know everything. When I was a kid, when people would ask me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be in every profession. I want to be a doctor, an engineer. I want to do everything. So I really literally wanted to learn everything. That's one thing. I wanted to know everything. And the other is I somehow knew, I don't know where it came from, that I can. These are the two things I had. No talents in any of this. I mean, if I say I have no talents, this will be not kind of true. I mean, I was good at learning. I could learn things. I could learn things very fast. So I did have some talent. So I'm grateful for universe gave me this gift that I could learn things very fast. Other than that, I had nothing, and I couldn't be a 9-to-5. It just didn't work for me. I had to be an entrepreneur. Now, you asked me if I want others to inspire to become an entrepreneur. Actually not. I mean, people ask me this question many times. A lot of youngsters, especially in my field, autonomous vehicle safety and security, young talented engineers, they say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm not sure Should I leave my 9 to 5? Is it the right time? The first thing I tell them that my first advice is do not take anybody's advice. The reason is every person in the world has a very unique trajectory of life, very unique. Nobody else have got the same trajectory. You have your life, I have my life, and there's no way my advice would fit one-to-one in your case. So that's why I also tell people, do not ever compare yourself with them, because comparison is absolutely nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. If you compare yourself with another person, you're just comparing two different entire entity, because your situation, that person's situation is totally, even siblings should not compare each other. The only person you can compare yourself to is your version of yesterday. Are you doing better than that or not? And competing also with yourself. I mean, I don't compete with anyone. I don't compare with anyone. I just want to be the better version of myself. Having said that, I don't want to inspire anybody or convince anyone that entrepreneurship is the right thing for you. You can be a 9-to-5er. If you're happy, that's it. I mean, you can create wealth being a 9-to-5er. You can create wealth being an entrepreneur. You can create wealth being an artist. The first thing is you gotta be happy. Here's one funny thing that I share pretty often, that when I did my I founded my first company in 2005 when I was still a student. So I landed a very good automotive software deal with that company, with a very big company. If I think about the total amount, that's nothing compared to what I do now. I mean, I'm doing multi-million-dollar deals now, but that money was my first deal. And I was actually living in a flat shared with my other friends back in Frankfurt, near Frankfurt, Darmstadt. I went back home. I did a dance in my living room that my roommates thought that I was on drugs or not. Actually, they were not that wrong. I was in a heavy dopamine rush. And this is not very different from the dopamine rush when you take cocaine. So they're not quite wrong. I was on drugs. I don't even get that kind of excitement even if I sign $1 million deal today. Wow. The reason is dopamine is not happiness. People often confuse the dopamine rush with happiness. If you're happy and there is nothing more, peaceful mind is priceless, right? Peace in mind, and if you're content with your life, if you feel content with your life, it doesn't matter if you're doing 9-to-5 or whatever. Yeah, for me, it was entrepreneurship. So when I say that, being happy, what is the definition of being happy? To me, it's like if you're in alignment with your authentic self, you're happy. Right. It doesn't matter. You will have struggles in everyday life. You will have the dopamine rush in everyday life. Those are not happiness breaker or happiness maker. The fact that I am in alignment with my true authentic self and I'm doing everything, that's happiness.
Well, now here, this brings us right to a word that I wrote down the other day. And I often do this. I watch people speak and then I write down a word that I want to dive deeper into. And it was about the word discipline. And I just love watching people with this trait. And it came up on my interview with Frederica Fabricius. She's also from Germany. And her book, The Brain-Friendly Workplace, is on the Wall Street bestseller list. And just a few under her book was Ryan Holiday's Discipline is Destiny. So I'm like, here it comes again, discipline. And then I saw you were referred to as Germany's most disciplined man. So I wonder, what does this word mean to you? And what do you think is possible for people who can be disciplined over the long term?
Great question. Discipline can be from, first of all, I think Craig is giving me a lot of credit with calling me the most disciplined man in Germany. I thank him for that. I'm not quite sure if I deserve that, but let's talk about discipline. Discipline can mean different things if you look at it from different angle. Oftentimes, people think that means if you're waking up on time, if you're eating on time, if you're working out on time. That's definitely one way to look at discipline. And in terms of that, I'm kind of disciplined. I do have a personal trainer. I do take care of my health. I have some discipline there. But for me, again, the word discipline has to fit in your personality and your life mission. What do you want to do in your entire life, right? If you are not going to be a Navy SEAL, then the discipline of Navy SEAL makes no sense in your life. Like a lot of people in the internet that you should wake up at 4 a.m. because Navy SEALs do that, right? So it's like it's not necessary. I mean, a lot of successful people, they don't wake up early in the morning. Obama wakes up around 7:30. There are also billionaires who also wake up late, but most of the billionaires, they wake up at 4 or 5 p.m. They're very early riser. So I had this fascination for a long time that I want to be like the billionaires, wake up at 4 or 5, and I tried. My circadian rhythm got messed up. I tried for a couple of days and then I gave up. So it happened time and time again, until I reached a point when I asked myself, what would be the most important thing to me to look back when I'm 87? I mean, 87 is just a random number. It's like, reflecting your entire life when you're almost toward the end. And then I could find the purpose, the most important things in my life that I want to develop. And I am from a Sufi family, and spirituality is a very important aspect of my life. And then I thought, okay, my spiritual enlightenment, whatever that is, whatever that could mean, is very important for me. And that gave me the discipline that I could never achieve with $1 billion motivation. So it's really, you have to look at the mission of your life and what kind of discipline is necessary for you in order to get that. And that is your discipline. So I have a lot of discipline in terms of, my ambition. I will always do things which is in alignment with my financial goal, my health goal, my spiritual goal, everyday decision, everyday things. It doesn't necessarily have to be waking up early every day at 5, working out at 8. It doesn't have to be that way. That is a fantastic way of having a disciplined life, but discipline is much more than that. You have to look at discipline in a grand scheme of your entire life, not those mundane things that you have to do repeatedly. And again, you don't have to repeat, as long as the things that you will be doing is in line with your mission, with your authentic self, you are disciplined.
Yeah, the only definition of discipline that I've ever come across that made sense or encompasses the whole thing is one from Bob Proctor that said it's the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. So that kind of goes in line with, if you want to do the thing, you desire to do the thing, you tell yourself that, and then you do it. That's it. It's like Nike, just do it, right?
Just do it, Nike. It's important. We have to talk about the tactical things as well. Tactics are important, but tactics are not going to work if you don't have the fundamental things. There are 3 things that are fundamental. I don't know if you have got my book yet, but if you read my book, I've wrote about these 3 things. The first one is your drive, your desire. Nobody can actually motivate you to have that drive. You cannot learn to be motivated or have that drive at Harvard School of Business. This cannot be learned. Then the second thing is, I mean, you kind of have to transform yourself in order to get to the next level of motivation. The second thing is you have to believe. Nobody can teach you to believe. You have to believe in yourself. This is, again, transformational. And the third thing is perseverance. And when it comes to perseverance, a lot of tactical things matter. For example, in order to, like the Bob Proctor's definition you gave, your ability to make you do something that you command. How do you do that? How do you get that ability? So for me, like taking a cold shower in the morning, that trains your willpower so much. It's actually training up the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your control, your willpower, right? So you're doing it in a very, very difficult context for 5 minutes. You're kind of torturing yourself, right? And that is, if you keep doing it every day, your willpower is going up. And then when you will have to do the same thing for another very high stakes situation, you will have that muscle already toned up, and it will help you.
Transferable skills. That's awesome. I don't think I could ever do that cold. I hear about it all the time, like Wim Hof and what he does. And
yeah,
I get frostbite thinking about it. But
it is amazing, Andrea. I would recommend you to try with only face, because it has to. Cold shower has to come in phases. You try to put your face under cold water for it is just amazing. It's just gonna elevate your life. I know two people actually also in their podcast. There was this gentleman who had a blockage in his artery, and couple of years of cold shower, he developed a new artery. His doctor said that he has never seen this ever in his entire life. Wow. So nobody knows if it's due to the cold shower or what, because this is not science, this is anecdotal, right? There's no randomized controlled trial, but there's a lot of benefit to it. And I also said it's never possible for me, but nothing is impossible. If you want to try it, it's amazing.
I'll try it in summertime, maybe, so I can.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, summer is a very, very good time to start.
Well, so we're talking about discipline, and you do the same things over and over again over long periods of time. Eventually, you get these higher levels of achievement, right? You hit the breakthrough, like when you got your big sale. It's like you're doing something over and over again. Maybe you're not seeing any results, and suddenly, bam, the results hit. And I just wonder, what have you seen over all the companies that you've been working with when these explosive results hit?
You can work for two things. Again, I'm going to come back to the fundamentals. You can work for two things. You can work for results, and you can work for the game itself. You love the game. Now, it's kind of paradoxical in a sense. If you focus on the result too much, the outcome is not always in your favor. And to be completely honest with you, I don't care about achievements. I love my game. Now, what's paradoxical is when you love your game and enjoy your game and do not care about the outcome somehow comes in your favor. That's what I've seen. Because again, the dopamine thing, if you're working for results, if you're working that I want that pivotal moment, I want that moment where everything is exploding, I'm almost close to that moment, there will be no end. Like I said, there was like a small deal made me dance like crazy. At one point, just like cocaine addiction, you'll need more and more and more. And that's kind of like paradoxical. That's not healthy. Yeah. That's not healthy in the long run. You'll be confusing this dopamine with happiness. But if you're really in the game, if you love your game. So today I'm talking to you. There is no financial motivation from both the sides, right? But I'm loving this. Right. I'm loving this. And be sure that if I do 100 podcasts, there will be probably financial gain coming up anyway, because probably I'll be booked for public speaking, or my book will be selling more. Well, be selling more books or whatever. I'll be networking with so many people. The outcome will happen when I don't focus on the outcome. If I keep enjoying it, if I'm keep giving value to people, the outcome will come.
Love that. That's a really good answer. That's powerful to think about, because we can keep working hard. And like you said, in sales, you get the big sale and then it's not over. You've got to go do it again. Your company expects that of you now. There's no end in mind. You've just got to love what you're doing and celebrate your wins along the way, and not be tied to the results, but be tied to the enjoyment of what you're doing.
Yes. Then you're just happy. The rest doesn't matter. If you're happy, it doesn't matter if you have $1 billion in your bag or $1,000 in your bag, right? If you're happy, it's the same feeling. You will not be breathing different kind of air when you have $1 million or $1 billion. You will be still sleeping in one. Like Warren Buffett said, you can only sleep in one bed. You can only have 3 meals a day, right?
Right. Well, so let's go, if we could, to the Silva method, because this is what really made me feel connected to you in the beginning. So we both studied Jose Silva's method, and I didn't even really know that it was Jose Silva's method until there were certain parts of seminars that I was taking that they would say, this came from the Silva method, and we're all writing it down. What is the Silva method? And so then I started to see parts of it. And then you explained it when you were 16, you came across this method that I've heard has really skyrocketed so many people. So how did this program help you back then? Maybe even with confidence building, because, I've got a 13-year-old and I'm always thinking of how can I use these ideas secretly so she doesn't know what I'm doing. But how did the Silva program help you?
Give me 1 second. I'll show you something.
Yeah.
It's right here. So this is the first. So this is really the one that I bought back then.
Yeah.
I still have that copy.
Nice.
I don't have. Yeah, this is really. I love old books.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah. So this is the book that I came across when I was 16. And before that, like I said, I was bullied. I was not really good at anything. I couldn't speak to girls. So confidence, there was no such thing as confidence. I didn't have any confidence at all. And I tried this book and some techniques in this book. I bought their tapes too. And all of a sudden, I was a very different person. I had right after that, after a couple of months, I had even my first girlfriend. I was a very different person. Everybody, I was outspoken. I could talk. Everybody was seeing a different person in me. And time went by. Of course, I didn't practice all the time. And when I was in college, in one semester, I had a terrible breakup. And I was so down. And I was thinking, hey, I still have those tapes of Silva. Those meditations were great. And why don't I listen to them again and see what happens? So I went back to Silva. And I felt great again, this whole alpha thing. Believe it or not, in none of my semesters, I got all A's in all the things. That was the only semester. It's like, wow, is there something correlated? And then again, time went by. Of course, I'm not practicing things, right? But the contribution is there. This is, I think in some cases are permanent, the thing that Silva brings you. And then again, I told you the time when I was like in 2014. 2014, I was working for a project. This is for my automotive company. I was going to Audi, which is like 40 to 50 minutes drive from here. I was going 3 days a week. And when I came back, I had no energy. I was in my early 30s. I was like, am I getting old? What's wrong with me? I was drinking coffee after coffee. I had no energy. And then I came across Dave Asprey's book.
Yeah.
And of course, learned the biohacking and everything. And that gave me so much energy. There's another thing besides those biohacking, like, cold shower, bulletproof coffee, no sugar. No sugar was a no-brainer, right? No sugar gave me so much energy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, wow, I really have to get into this. I have to get into that. And I founded this company eventually with my sisters. There's another thing Dave Asprey talks about. Dave Asprey talks about his 40 years of Zen meditation. This is Silva alpha training with technology.
Wow.
And I went and did that training.
Oh, cool.
And that was Silva in 10x of Silva. Like I would say 100x. This is the first time I realized what alpha is. I did all this Silva training in 16. I didn't understand what it is. It probably happened naturally. Mm-hmm. But when I was with hooked with those electrodes, I was trying to increase my alpha. It was not working. When I stopped trying, all of a sudden alpha went high. And then I kind of realized that, okay, I have to relax, then alpha works. So I was relaxing. So I'm really happy that alpha is going up, going up. Then at one point, alpha is really high. I just forgot about everything. I'm really in a different dimension. I'm not even realizing the alpha is going up, right? But all of a sudden, I consciously think, hey, my alpha is going up. The moment I consciously think something, alpha goes down. So I realized alpha is about thinking of nothing.
Letting go.
Like Deepak Chopra said, meditation is about nothing. How can you tell a 16 or a 13 years old that you have to do nothing in your brain? Think nothing. That's kind of hard. But with neurofeedback, we have built those feedback centers also at Brainvincible in our company. It is amazing. You hear, you see what's happening in your brain. And Dave Asprey claims that you can achieve that in 7 days, what others, the Zen meditationers, achieved in 40 years. I don't know if that statement is true or false. I'm not in a position to even comment on that. But what I can tell you from my experience, you really understand what meditation is. Because most of the time when people meditate, they fall asleep. Yeah. They what was that? There was nothing. It's just, I got dizzy. I fell asleep. But it's not about being asleep or anything. It's a whole different dimension of your brain. It's a wonderful feeling to be in, high alpha state. It's wonderful, relaxed, and very healthy state of being, as you know, if you're a Silva practitioner. So that's my Silva journey.
Wow. So it was interesting because I just asked this question to Frederica Fabricius on our last episode about, I've been trying to figure out when you get these flashes of insight in your head, like, I don't know, building all these companies, I know that you would have to have had something that flashes in your head. And I always wondered, and I asked people on interviews, what is that? And she was the first person that reminded me that, when you're relaxed, you're in alpha state, and then you can actually measure, like you're saying, the brain waves when you get those flashes. And is it gamma or which one? When you get that, it goes to gamma, I think, and you can see the spike and, everyday thinking. So I never really thought about measuring the brain waves. And then Silva was talking about that all those years ago. Now they're showing, you're hooking people up and showing it. So it's not so weird when we're getting these flashes of insight that, you talk about it. What do you say? All those famous people like Edison and Einstein were doing this.
Great question. Before I go there, I think I have to correct you a little bit. You said alpha goes to gamma. It doesn't happen like that. So your brain has different frequencies. Sure. So the alpha frequency is like the brain waves between, I think, 4 to 12. if I'm not mistaken. And there are different frequencies. Those are called, different. You have theta, you have beta when you're awake. You even have gamma, very, very high frequency. So what you're training is that, 4 to 10. Like now, I think they even call it alpha 1, alpha 2. Alpha 1 is the very low, alpha 2 is the relatively higher one. Or the other way around. I don't remember the exact syntax. So for the audience, the way you should understand is alpha is that that spectrum of the wavelength, and then they're lower, which is beta, delta, and they're higher. No, theta and delta is lower. Beta, gamma, omega, these are higher. Now, what we try to do is we try to increase the amplitude of those wavelengths. This is alpha training. And of course, the others are also there, present in your brain, but you're focusing to increase the amplitude of the alpha. This is the alpha training. So you don't really see the gamma. There are gamma trainings too. There are theta trainings too. Now come back to your question. Edison is one of my favorite. He used to, I think he's one of the guys in the history who really took advantage of the theta level of brainwave. So theta is it's lower than alpha. It's very low. When you're almost dreaming stage is theta. So it's that. I mean, some of those statements are not yet pure science. So these are more anecdotal. There are no hard and fast evidence for that. But it works for me. It worked for Edison. It works for a lot of people. So you have, I'm a scientist. So if I make a statement which is not backed by science, I feel obligated to say that this is not backed by science, but this is still there. So what people say is, this is where you are extremely creative at the theta level. You get answers. And I got answers in theta level. Edison got answers at theta level. A lot of other, Einstein got many answers at theta level. Michael Jackson got answers at theta level. So they used to get the answers in their dream. Like what used to happen to me is I'm trying to solve a very difficult theorem during my PhD, and I'm not getting anywhere. I sleep, all of a sudden, I have the answer. I jump from my bed and write it down. Edison was using this in a very tactical way. He was holding a metal ball in his hand, and there was a metal plate, and he was sitting in his desk. If he would fall asleep, then the ball will fall down and hit the plate, and he would wake up. So he was trying to tap into his theta and get those answers and wake up immediately to write them down. Edison was doing that. So these people, they really harnessed the power of their brain. It's not only alpha, it's many other things. We don't know much about the brain, right? The only thing we can measure is the frequency. We can, of course, do an fMRI, where we can also see the morphology. So there are two different views now we can have in the brain. One is the frequency with an EEG machine. We can see the frequency. This is the functional way of looking at the brain. This is what they say, how the brain functions. And with an fMRI, we can see the morphology of the brain, how the brain structure is. So, neuroscience, I mean, you're a neuroscientist. Neuroscientists say that it's like, looking at the stars in Alpha Centauri, right? We don't really have those cameras and everything. James Webb Telescope proved a lot of our views about the universe wrong, right? So this is the way we are able to see the brain now. So we don't really know much about the brain, but what we know is we have a lot of potential that we can untap. And people like Einstein, Edison, Michael Jackson, and many others have done that.
And when we talk about it now, it's not so weird, right? We were talking about this before. Like if I was to say, I got these flashes of insight that came across my head in between sleep and wake. If I was, in the corporate world, people would think I was crazy, but it's not so crazy now if I explain that, during an alpha training session, I can relax my mind and it taps me into this place where I can get answers. Is that it's more accepted now, right? Do you think
it is totally more accepted?
Yeah.
It is like Craig Ballantyne, my coach, he suggests that you write down your questions before you go to bed. It's like the brain processes. I was reading this book about sleep by an Oxford professor. What was the name of the book? I don't remember the name of the book, but it's an amazing book about sleep.
It was probably Matthew Walker's.
Yes.
Yeah, Matthew
Walker. Thank you. It was Matthew Walker's book. Yeah. And we do so much while we sleep. Sleeping is so vital part of our brain activities, and we solve problems while we sleep. We learn while we sleep. We process while we sleep.
So you ever write down your dreams when you wake up so that?
No, I never write down my dreams.
Okay.
No. Yeah. I often don't remember my dreams, to be honest.
That's why you got to write them down. Bob Proctor taught me that in the 90s. So I've been writing down things. When you wake up, just write down sometimes it doesn't make sense. And sometimes you look back, but then you get common themes that come out.
Right. Tell me about like Bob Proctor's philosophy about writing down dreams. What is the idea behind it?
Yeah, so it's to get common themes. So he would always say, you'll have all the answers within yourself. Never ask someone else, like for an opinion, like, what do you think of this? Go within. And he would say, you can find every answer that you want. Just close your eyes. Just like you said about the problem, close your eyes and your answers will be revealed in some way. And he would say, start writing down your dreams. And so I have this dream log from the late 90s that I started, and it's weird. It's like you see things and you're like, what? And dreams, they're kind of crazy, but you look at them and you can see what was going on in your waking time, maybe what problems you had, and they show up in your dreams, and you can circle and make connections, and life lessons can be learned this way. So I'm just looking back now, like 51, I started doing this like maybe age 28, 29. And so you can see all the biggest life decisions you've made. You get answers in your dreams, and you can see, well, go this way. And you don't ever need to ask someone, what should I do? Those people that are like always going, what should I do? And you're like, I don't know, I'm not you. So I always say, go within and find the answer yourself. You should know yourself, get like a guidance from within for where you're going.
I really like that. What often happens to me and a lot of people is when you're asking a question, you don't quite know if it is your ego, manifestation of your ego, that is telling you the answer, that your inner voice, or is it really your inner voice? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, it's a good one, because does your ego come through in dreams? Like that's what I would have to ask Matthew Walker that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your authentic self, like you get these messages, and I feel like when you're in that dream world, and I interviewed a Harvard neuroscientist, Dr. Balan Jalal. He was fascinating. He talked about sleep paralysis, and I asked him, all these things like lucid dreaming and all of this, and I just wonder a lot of things that still can't be backed by science. Like you say, I have a lot of questions about this dream world that we'll have to just stay tuned in to Matthew Walker to learn more. But I feel like when you're in that dream world, you're not in this everyday world where your ego exists. Or that's what I want to know. Are we egoless in the dream world? I don't know.
I would tend to say almost yes in certain dreams. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say. Hard to say. So, I have dreamt something in the past, and then my logical brain said, hey, that's just a dream. I was kind of getting a negative vibe about, let's say a venture or a decision that I would make. This is just a dream. I mean, my logical part of the brain was saying that I should go for it, and I went for it. Turned out my dream was right. So I was probably getting an answer in the dream, but I did not take it seriously. I did not know that if it is my inner voice or is it my ego or what. I mean, this is a big part of my thought or my research. How do I differentiate between my ego and my inner voice? But again, I think this is like a good question. Is dream a manifestation of my ego, or is it a manifestation of what? We actually don't know much about it, to be frank. Yeah.
But so if we could go on to, you talked a little bit about Dave Asprey and what you learned from him and biohacking. What was it about Dave Asprey that really changed you and your direction?
Great question. I think the reason I liked Dave Asprey, because Dave Asprey is a computer scientist. I'm a computer scientist. A computer scientist talking about biohacking. I took it more seriously. So what I learned from him very basics. I took really the basics. Don't eat sugar. It's a basic. It was hard in the beginning. The first few days, few weeks. But once I was out of it, I had so much energy. It's like, no sugar means so much energy. I didn't know that. That was one thing. Then his like bulletproof diet. I don't follow 1-to-1 bulletproof. I think I have, customized it according to my need. Like I said, there is no one size fit all diet. In my opinion. And then I got back to this, Silva thing because through his book, I got to know that there's technology exists in order to, meditate from him. Then I still drink bulletproof coffee. It's like, one of my very favorite things. Cold shower. I first came across. I didn't know Wim Hof back then. It was in 2014. I first came across cold shower through Dave Asprey. And I think he's one of the greatest contributors in the biohacking community. I follow him. That's
interesting because I started listening to Dave Asprey quite a few years ago. And I remember where I was on the freeway when he had Dr. David Sinclair on his podcast. And Dr. Sinclair, a longevity expert, he says, we can make a mouse in a lab out of stem cells. And it just was like, what? You can make a mouse? What, is he really making a mouse from cells? I was like, what is he talking about? It was opening my mind to something I couldn't even fathom that they were doing, What do you think about that?
I love David Sinclair. David Sinclair, I think if there's one man who deserves a Nobel Prize, it's him. He's doing amazing work. And I read his book. His book is another life changer for me. Longevity. Today there was another podcast recording, and I was actually talking about high performance. So I said that a lot of high performance coaches these days don't think about longevity. It doesn't really bring me anything if I'm ultra performer for 3 years, then my energy level goes down. Right? We have to bring the longevity in the equation, and Dave Sinclair is doing a great job. Now, in his book, he talks about this kind of stem cell. And if I want to have to simplify, very, very oversimplify the whole thing, it's like this. Your DNA gets damaged, right? It's like Dave Sinclair calls it scratches in your CD, right? Now, we have this certain molecule in our body, sirtuin molecule, that is responsible for repairing those damages. When you're young, the repairing mechanism is robust, and you get healed pretty fast. As you grow old, your repairing mechanism gets slower. Your sirtuins, that you don't have enough power. Your mitochondria is slowing down. There's this thing they need called NAD. This is like the power cells of a person, a human being. So sirtuin molecules, there are two things you need. You need to power them up, and you need to activate them. So Dave Sinclair suggests, as you know, NMN for powering up, NAD booster, and resveratrol or any kind of resveratrol type. Dave Asper also mentioned this in the book. Resveratrol, like the blue zone thing, people drinking red wine. There are a lot of resveratrol in that. That activates the sirtuin to prepare. So what's happening is you're repairing, but what happens to the damaged cell, the cells that already got damaged? Now, here comes stem cell / regeneration / creating a mouse, whatever. If you can regenerate those cells, those DNAs, you'll literally become from 50 to 25, right? Now, the problem, Dave Sinclair is saying that there is a risk that this regeneration process will turn into cancer cells. Like out of control regeneration is cancer, right? So there are a lot of research, there are a lot of venture capital money. I believe in our lifetime, within our lifetime, we'll see that you'll take an injection and you'll become 25 years old, and come back another 25 years later, take another injection, become 25 years old. This will happen in our lifetime. And that's exactly what Dave Sinclair is talking about. I'm not quite sure what exactly he means by creating a mouse. It's like regeneration, so you can generate the whole thing. So if that happens, this is going to be a game changer. I believe that human being will become an amortal species at one point. Will not die.
Oh.
At least not naturally. That's why I said amortal. Still, you can be killed or die in a road accident, but you will not die naturally.
Well, I was going to ask you, what would be the strangest thing that you've ever heard? And to me, that's almost like it. But do you have anything else? Like when I heard this, I thought, what is he talking about? It just stopped me in my tracks. Is there anything that you've heard that's just so out there like that? Like, where did you get that from? We're going to be immortal. We're not going to die because we can inject ourselves. What other things do you have along this line that just could blow our minds?
Yes. So there is a Google-backed startup who's researching on immortality. There are companies, this is a scam, I believe, that they're freezing your body and you will wake up 1,000 years later, hoping that the disease you have, probably you have a cure for that, and you'll be cured. Now, that is one of the strangest thing I've ever heard, and I think this is a scam because I think they will be able to resurrect them. Technically, that is possible, but I don't think. I doubt if there will be consciousness. So there will be technically resurrected vegetables when they, 1,000 years later, if we can resurrect them. So that's one of the strangest things. That is one path of going toward not immortality, almost, because you will be probably will have the mortality pill, and if you can resurrect and take it, then you're immortal. On the other hand, the reason I believe that we'll be immortal because death is something that is due to a certain process in our body. Aging is a process in our body, and that process is reversible. Technologically, nanotechnology, especially, the best thing that we have learned is during COVID, like when we created this mRNA-based vaccine, and we know now we have data how mRNA works, right? So we can use this technology. You can actually create DNA origamis. You can create actually software programs that you can. I mean, DNA is a programmable thing, so you can inject those programs in your body to do genetic engineering. By the way, mRNA was not genetic engineering, so people should not be worried about that. But that technology can be used, DNA programming and all those for genetic engineering that can do a lot of things in our body that we can't do now. I mean, they can reverse that process of aging. And hence, I don't see any reason for people to die if we can control that. Another technology is nanotechnology. Nanotechnology means that you can actually create nano-level object, insert it in your vein. This object will swim around in your blood and give you, send signals to you or to your doctor, to your app, that if you have any malicious or any kind of disease growing or not. So I think we will be some scientists call it the brain net. After the internet, there'll be the brain net. Our DNA and everything will be connected to the internet. It'll be a massive database. So there will be a lot of early warning of your diseases, aging, and all those. So you'll be able to take measure. So it just depends on the priority of the venture capital money or the capitalism money, politicians' priority. It looks like that, in most of the post-industrialization, the age structure is an inverted pyramid. So aging is a problem. We see it now, right? So that's why there's a lot of investment also in this field, massive advancement. And I don't think in 50 years we'll be able to reach immortality, but we will be able to reach a lifespan of 120 for sure within 50 years. And 1,000 years or so, I can't predict the exact, but about 1,000 years will be hopefully immortal if the technology continues at that space.
This is mind-blowing and fascinating. You've definitely opened my level of awareness, Dr. Hasan. I never thought we were going to go this wide and deep into this. So it's my whole point of doing this podcast is to expand my awareness and then share your perspective with those that tune in. And this has definitely done that. Is there anything important that I've missed from my questions for you that you think is important that we should have covered?
We have covered a lot of interesting things. You have asked really stimulating questions. Thank you so much for those questions, because without those questions, I don't think this podcast would be as stimulating as today. I love talking to you. I loved your questions. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Hasan. It's been incredible meeting you and learning about your work. I'm so grateful to have found you and that you reached out to me. Thank you so much for this. You've made the world a smaller place as, we connect together. And then, this podcast goes out into like over 168 countries. It just blows my mind for those tuning in. But your message is inspiring, uplifting, and helpful for all of those who might be looking for some new and refreshing ideas to help us finish the last quarter of our year strong and launch us into a successful 2023. I want to thank you so much for your ideas, time, and your knowledge today, Dr. Hasan.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It was amazing talking to you.
Thank you. Some final thoughts at the end of this episode. I had no idea that Dr. Hasan would expand my level of awareness with some areas where my mind has never gone before. If you want to learn more from Dr. Hasan's company, I've put links in the show notes to follow his work, his Brainvincible programs, and nootropic that I'm trying, and where you can find his book, The $1 Million Monk. Prior to speaking with Dr. Hasan, I didn't realize he'd started 7 companies. I thought it was 4, But what was interesting is that this was not uncommon with people I met in the seminar industry. Most people who I met back in those early days did what they loved in the day, whether they were truck drivers, teachers, or working some sort of corporate job. They did something they enjoyed, but they had other business ideas that they ran outside of what they spent their days doing. Dr. Hasan challenged me to think that there isn't a limit to how many sources of income we can create, but in this quest for helping others with whatever it is that we do, to not be tied to our outcomes. They'll come with time. And while we're putting in the daily effort, enjoying whatever it is that we do with our day, that we can also put an emphasis on our relationships and health, because science is revealing that many of the most chronic diseases are actually lifestyle diseases and are reversible. Something I'm going to keep studying and learning more about so we can all move our needle towards health and wellness and healthy relationships that we enjoy not just in this year, but for many years to come. And with that, I'll see you a bit later this week for Brain Fact Friday, where I'll share what exactly the Silva method is, how I use it, and how you can use it in your daily life. I'll see you then.